Hey, there's this guy here that I think we need to get him on the show.
Yeah, it was kind of like a match made in heaven, truthfully, with the hipster engineer and Max coming out here.
Extra strong Roman concrete.
Fully hydraulic.
Structural solid connections.
It's the
Structural engineering podcast.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Structural Engineering Podcast. This week we're talking with Josh Ogle, the man behind the hipsterengineer.com. Josh helps people study for and pass the PE and FE exam, and he's got a ton of great resources on job search as well. If you haven't already, check out his website. He's got a lot of great things on there. He's got some extra links and discount codes for SEP listeners. So we hope you enjoy.
So I'm Josh Ogle, aka the hipster engineer. I'm a structural engineer, project manager, husband.
What do you like to do outside of work?
Outside of work, I like to spend some time with my family, my wife, and my
Awesome.
2 dogs. There are only kids right now, and then my wife is expecting. So
Oh,
gotta balance a lot of things with work, outside extracurriculars that I don't really have the time for, and then just life in general.
Well, welcome. Thanks
you.
for being on the episode this week. So let's dive in a little bit. So you know Max, you guys work together. Max came out to Salt Lake 5 months ago, let's say. Started working here, and you guys got to know each other. Max kind of called me and was like, hey, there's this guy here that I think we need to get him on the show.
Yeah, it was kind of like a match made in heaven, truthfully, with the hipster engineer and Max coming out here. You know, I heard that he had this structural engineering podcast. I checked it out. It's pretty awesome. So you guys are doing great things on that.
And we're not paying him to say that.
No, so I started the hipster engineer just out of a desire to help people as they're going through either school, preparing for the FE, outside of school, preparing for the PE exam, and also just in general as far as what to do in your career. Because I felt like there was information out there that I could find, but it would apply to engineers that were like computer engineers, and structural engineering or civil engineering in general is very much different than the tech industry. Very much different as far as how much you can actually negotiate. You know, they're on the top tier. We might be on the lower tier, and that's okay. I wouldn't change it for the world, but that's kind of what I was seeing. Is I was seeing everything spread out so far, and I wanted to kind of bring it all together in order to help people, you know, for those big decision things like negotiating your salary. You know, what do you do to continue to get raises year after year? You even land an interview. So that's kind of like the big thing. That's coming back to like the basics, but the basics are the hardest part.
The building blocks, the foundation.
Right.
Of everything. How long were you an engineer out of school before you started the hipster engineer? Or like, give some timelines here. When did you graduate, and walk us through that?
Yeah, so I graduated with my bachelor's from BYU in 2013. I moved out to California chasing the golden dream of the mecca of structural engineering, which is California. And I went to school there, got my master's at UC Davis, and that's when I started working for a firm up in Sacramento. An opportunity presented itself for me to move down to LA. So I moved down to LA and lived the LA dream. It's funny because I always thought to myself, I'll never live in California. Then I moved to California and I was like, oh, well, at least it's not Southern California. And then I moved to Southern California. And then, you know, as it would go,
only up from there.
Yeah. I finished up with my schooling in 2013, and then it wasn't until early 2018 that I started the hipster engineer. It kind of started a little bit before, but it wasn't official. It wasn't Facebook official, if you will, until early 2018. So luckily I had a lot of help from my wife, who's a graphic designer, my sister, who does websites, and it's been slow going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of where it started. And so I've been doing it for almost a year and a half or so.
That's
Nice.
exciting.
So,
It sounded like you had some cool opportunities early in your career to help grow some offices, right? Is that the LA move?
right, yeah. So the LA move, I actually moved down there with 3 other people, and we started to build up our remote office. We wanted to create the culture that we had down there. And so, yeah, that was definitely a learning experience. You know, you go from an office of 50 people down to an office of 4. You learn things a lot differently. You know, you're kind of thrown to the wolves, if you will.
And you have to do everything, I'm guessing.
Yeah, you have to do
Your
everything.
marketing, your doing business development, you're engineering, you're drafting, you're
Right.
a little bit of everything.
Right. Setting up FedEx deliveries. Oh my goodness. You know, like things like that to like, you don't think about all the things that like the front office might do. Or even like somebody comes to visit you and it's like, you have this small office. It's just 4 of you. It's like, oh, I'm supposed to greet you. I'm now the receptionist. And so, yeah, I got very comfortable interacting with people there, and yeah, definitely stretched me in more ways than I could have imagined. But I wouldn't change anything that happened on my career path for anything else that I could have done.
Right, all that leaded you to where you are now, and
Right,
so
yeah.
the hipster engineer, and
working at Dunn Associates. When I was out in California, I hadn't done anything that was more than 2 stories and rectangular, and my first project here was 5 stories, and it had grid systems that were radial in 2 different directions, and so even then it was a learning experience going from the mecca of structural engineering, what I deemed as the mecca of structural engineering, to Utah. What I realized is the mecca is what you make it.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about the hipster engineer.
Yeah, so the hipster engineer, right now it's just a website. We're going to expand at some point in the future, but right now it's a website. I create content just to help people in these 3 different stages that they have, preparing for an exam, a licensure exam, the FE, the PE, the SE, or if they're starting their career, how do they, nail their first job? How do they nail their interviews? And then the third one kind of goes with part 2, which is that continued career growth. So you have licensure, you have the start of your career, and then you have like the continuation of your career. Because sometimes it's just hard to know, how do I get to that next level? Whether it's, how do I negotiate more money? How do I prove that I'm worth more money? Or, okay, I'm considering moving to New Zealand. I can just say that because I've considered moving to New Zealand. There's a lot that's involved in going international. What are things that you have to think about? So those are the kinds of things that I want to give people.
I think it's such an interesting point, because I think most other jobs have like a very distinct career path, and I think there's so much info out there for everything except structural engineering for some reason.
Yeah,
I'm not sure why. The internet has very limited resources on that, and the industry probably hurts itself sometimes on that. But yeah, I think that's really cool. And then the international thing, I've definitely been thinking about moving to Italy, so I think we're going to have to talk.
Yeah. That'll be another episode.
Another episode.
Yeah.
Zach goes to Italy. So, I'm going to take the PE in 4 weeks.
Okay.
How do you think I should spend my last 4 weeks leading up to the test? You have no clue, obviously, what I've been doing, but let's say a typical person. I don't know if you can just throw this into a typical group.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A month before you're taking the exam, the best advice that I could give you would be practice, practice, practice. Like, the more practice problems, the more examples you're going through, the more prepared you're going to be for the exam. Like, think about going through 10 practice problems, and you can get into the nitty-gritty of each of those and understand everything exactly correctly. Or what about quantity? What if you went through 100 practice problems and maybe you don't understand every nitty-gritty little detail, but you understand enough to be dangerous, enough to answer the question at hand? You're going to be prepared for all those different instances with this toolbox of knowledge behind you. So definitely practicing would be the most important thing. Along with that practice would be doing like a practice exam 3 weeks or 4 weeks ahead of time.
Okay.
Or before you take the exam. There's plenty out there. NCEES has a practice exam. PPI has practice exams as well. Do the first morning portion, take an hour break, do the second afternoon portion, and then afterwards see how you did. Like, that's going to get you physically, mentally trained. And then after doing that practice test, going back and evaluating yourself, seeing where you need to practice extra problems. That's kind of the thing that I would tell truly anybody. I don't know what you've done already before, but
no, this is perfect.
No, so hopefully that helps
I'm
you.
feeling really good now.
Now you might go back to change your game plan. I don't know. Hopefully.
No, that's all I've been doing. I spent about 2 months studying, and I found how I study the best is to everyone I talk to has a different mentality. Right. It's like all different, but I found for me to retain the information and learn, I have to write it down. I have to read it, kind of look at some images, and then write down what I just read and whatnot, and then I retain it very well.
Yeah.
So I did that for a month and a half or 2 months, and now the last 2 weeks I've just been purely doing problems.
Yeah.
Tons and tons of problems. I haven't done a full 8-hour test.
Yeah.
I've done a few of the practice tests that are supposed to be 8 hours. I definitely didn't spend 8 hours.
Right.
I hear that the practice exams are notoriously a little bit harder than the real exam. How do you think people should feel about the grades on a practice exam? Like what is good?
Yeah. That's a great question. For the NCEES practice exam, I feel like it might be spot on or maybe just a titch harder.
Yeah.
Maybe. But for example, the ones that come from like PPI, those are, those are not for the faint of heart. Those will definitely, they raise the bar.
Okay.
And so that it makes it a little bit easier going into, well, I don't know if it's easier to get basically owned on a practice exam. I don't know what that does to your confidence, but
Yeah.
if you go back and evaluate, see what you can do better, ultimately you're going to grow from it. You're going to get better. And so the PPI practice exams are a lot harder. All of their practice exams or practice problems are a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're like, I've never heard of this thing before in my life, that's okay. You still might find one or two of those on the actual PE exam.
Yeah, but don't feel terrible
Don't
about
feel,
it.
yeah, don't feel bad about it. Yeah.
Man, I feel good now.
The test is meant to see how you perform under a lot of pressure. You're under time constraints. Like, as an engineer, like, I don't care who you are. You're smart enough to get all of the questions right. It's just, are you quick enough to get them done in that time frame?
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. It's a battle of you versus yourself. It's not anything else. Like, if you've signed up for the exam, you're definitely smart enough. You've graduated from an ABET accredited university. You've taken the FE exam, which in my opinion was probably harder than the PE exam because you just have so many more questions in this small time constraint. And it's a lot more, in my mind, numbers based or like equations and numbers versus the PE where there's concepts, there's things that kind of go along with those numbers.
Yeah.
Do you recommend, so I think if you want to practice structural engineering before you do the SE exam, you can kind of take the civil PE or the architectural PE and be in the same category. Do you think one is better than the other?
On that same note, I've also heard taking the construction.
Oh,
There's like
Honestly, if you're going for your structural engineering license, I don't see why you'd go anywhere else other than the structural depth.
Yeah.
There are people have reached out to me and said, I don't know which exam depth to take. Which one should I take? They say that there are some that are easier than others, but I think it's what you're most comfortable with. Like some people might say, oh yeah, the construction one is the easiest one. But unless you're all in the different codes, OSHA and stuff like that, I would not recommend that.
no.
If anything, I would recommend some of the other ones that do not rely on codes, that just rely on equations. Equations will not do you wrong. Codes will. So, yeah.
Good point.
Yeah.
What would you say the days leading up to exam, like, if you're racing or something, you taper off. Do you taper off your studying going into it and give the brain a rest?
Do you fly fishing?
I mean, honestly, like what I would recommend the day before doing the exam or even 2 days before the exam is taking the day off of work and don't study at all for that day. Or if you decide to make it 2 days, I'm okay with that. But at least take 1 day off before the exam, relax, go fly fishing, go road biking, do anything that just doesn't tax your mind. One thing that you could do to still stay in the same mindset is that day before, pack up your wagon or suitcase or whatever you have. And, if you're curious to what you should pack, I so wasn't prepared for this. But on my website, I have this packing list that I put together, which goes through, what are the different things that you should pack. There's tons of lists out there that help you prepare for a tornado or, I don't know, a snowstorm, and that's okay. You might need to prepare for that wherever you live, but this is going to be, what are the basics for what you should pack?
This is awesome.
And I found that if you do that the day before, like you're still in the mindset of the PE exam, but it's not taxing. Like putting in a few tabs into a code book or packing things up or gathering your snacks. That's one of my favorite parts. That to me is just, you're mentally preparing, but it's not a taxing mental exercise.
Yes, I know we'll get to more of these, but you have a ton of cool stuff on your website, which we'll try to hit as many as we can. So definitely check out. Is that website is just thehipsterengineer.com? Yeah,
thehipsterengineer.com. If you want to see links to these different things that we're talking about right now, if you do thehipsterengineer.com/SEP for Structural Engineering Podcast, I'll just put different links to anything and everything that we talk about there. So it's easy. And if you use a promo code SEP, who would have thought that it would be that simple, the promo code, but you'll be able to get a discount on that as well. But yeah, the hipsterengineer.com/SEP.
Cool. And we'll provide this on all of our show notes on our website as well.
Perfect.
So I've seen on a couple things that you should study for 300 hours, which seems like a lot, but I think it depends on your comfort level and what, going into the test comfortable is probably the most important thing. And if that takes 300 hours, then that's great. What do you think is the right amount of time to study and how to organize that time?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of interesting because it depends on who you ask.
Yeah.
I have coworkers where I've asked them, how much should I study for either the PE or SE exam? How much did you study and was it enough? I had some people say, I studied way too much. Well, what does that mean? What does that give me? Or, yeah, I studied the right amount, or I didn't study enough. Everybody's different. And so saying it's 300 hours, I think you'll be more than prepared if you study for 300 hours. For me, I've seen people that study from 100 to 150 hours and they pass the exam. I've seen people that have only studied for 2 weekends before the PE exam and they still pass it. Like those people are unicorns.
You're sitting next to a Max, like studying for 2 weekends before the exam and pass.
I see. Okay.
That's a good. I've never thought about that. Max is a good unicorn.
In my mind, like studying for the PE exam becomes a part-time job.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know when you start your part-time job. Is that 3 months ahead of time? Is that 6 months ahead of time? In my case, I was very different as well because my life was a little bit crazy with work, and so I didn't start studying until a month and a half or two beforehand. And even then, my time was a little bit constrained. So I think I only spent about 120, maybe 100 hours studying, mm-hmm. but that felt good enough for me. But other people, they might go for that 150 hour, 200, or even 300 range. And I didn't really answer your question.
No, I mean,
those are
it's a
my
very opinionated thing. So
oh yeah,
I think it's great.
Like, I think it's safe to say and conservative to say that if you study for 300 hours, you have a really good chance of passing the PE. If you don't pass the PE, then you weren't studying the right material.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, or you're just not a great test taker, which I understand because I'm in that same boat. Like I'll second guess myself, or I'll make a stupid mistake where I add instead of subtract or things like that.
Yeah.
So,
and maybe as real quick, before you start studying, whatever you're 3 months out, whatever you want to be, would you recommend making a game plan from the get-go and making basically like an outline?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's multiple ways you can approach this. You can give people money and they'll create that outline for you, right? I work for PPI. They put together different courses and study plans for people. That's a great way to do it. Is it worth your time? Is it worth your money? I think that you can create an equally good study plan on your own if you have the time and you have the energy. Somebody's not spoon-feeding you all the information, so you have to be driven. But going back to your original question, I kind of went on a tangent, but coming to your original question is absolutely, you should plan things out. Mm-hmm. Just like anything else in life, in work, like it starts with a plan. It's okay to deviate from the plan. It's okay to end up going to your friend's wedding or your friend's bar mitzvah or whatever it may be. I don't know, whatever you have going on in your life, or if you just need some you time away from the engineering books, or maybe your significant other needs some time with you. Like, ultimately, the PE exam, the SE exam, like, that's great if you can pass it. But at what expense do you go to pass that? So, you guys will probably think I'm crazy, and that's okay. So, if I were to pull up just my calendar of how I planned it out, like I said, you might think I'm crazy.
Oh,
but I planned out everything in my day of like when I wake up, when I do things for the Hipster Engineer, when I go to work, like how do I still get my 40 hours? How do I still spend an hour or so with my wife? Like, as much as it sounds like I have to put this plan in place so that I know when I teach my classes, all that, because I have a lot going on.
Yeah.
Have I deviated from this plan? Absolutely. Every single day when I don't want to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning to answer questions or do things on the website. But if I want to get everything done in my life, I'm the type of person that I will go without as much sleep as I need to, though I do not recommend that. Sleep is a good thing as you're preparing for the exam, but as you saw, my schedule went from 4 a.m. down to 10 p.m. So that only leaves 6 hours of sleep. I can function on that. That's kind of ingrained in me. My parents would always go to bed late, wake up early.
Yep.
That's not for everybody.
Yep.
So, but this is also for the person that starts studying for the PE exam a month and a half in advance. Not the person that's starting 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Yeah, you got to cut something.
But yeah, I mean, like planning out, okay, during the week I want to study for an hour each day, and I want to study for 4 hours on the weekend. Or maybe I just want to study on Saturday and Sunday and get 10 hours in, and that's all you plan for. That's enough as long as you're hitting those goals, hitting those metrics.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
So another thing that I might add, in your preparation as well as the day of the test, like I've put together 10 different tips. It's my exam day cheat sheet as far as how to, in my opinion, how to best prepare for those hours leading up to the exam.
Mm-hmm.
One of them that I will mention, I'll leave the rest of them kind of a secret so that you have to check it out. But one of them is entitled Leave Doubts Behind. So what that to me is, somebody told me this and I thought it worked pretty well. They said, hey, when you go into the exam, take a few minutes beforehand, write down all your doubts, all your concerns onto a piece of paper. Some of those could be, what will people think if I don't pass the PE or the FE or the SE exam? Another concern is, I have to study again if I don't pass. Like all these like negative thoughts that you have, like write them down. Like you might use a couple pieces of paper, that's fine. But you write them down, kind of like what you were saying, that's how you learn. Like that's how you put it on paper. When I write things down, that's how I get it out of my head, but it's also how I learn as well. But it gets out of my head. It's on something tangible. You crumple that up and you throw that away, and then you tell yourself different positive things as you're going into the exam. So it's like you're leaving all these doubts behind, and then you're talking only positive things to yourself. And your mind is an amazing thing, right? It's like this supercomputer, and you can really reprogram it. This is like pressing like this reset button, and it's like you have like this blank slate going into the exam. And so that's one of the things that I mentioned on this exam day cheat sheet. And then the other one, I won't tell you about it, but it's called The Strategy, aka the Hipster Engineer Strategy, going through how you bubble, how you answer certain questions based on your confidence level. So it's been beneficial for me as I've gone through the exam. So check it out.
Oh, I like it. I think so much of the exam is just being in like a good mental state and like relaxed. Anything you can get out of your head.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
And then lastly, the last thing that that will blow your mind, you can have this copy for free. This is like gold.
Oh.
These are the recommended tabs that I have for the different code books for concrete, steel, masonry, or wood. And it goes through the different tables or sections that, in my opinion, are important to have tabbed for easy access.
Oh, yeah.
But, especially if you're not as familiar with the concrete code and you're like, I just need something to give me some keywords of where to search. Or maybe it's the wood code for you. Maybe you don't even need this, and that's fine. Maybe you're already past the hipster engineer in what sort of tabs you already have. But this just kind of goes through what I recommend. More information. The ability to do more tabs is better until they start getting in the way. Mm-hmm. So you can pick and choose. Maybe you don't want to have a tab on corbels. For me, I wanted to know exactly where that was if I got a question on corbels.
Yep.
Corbels. I've been pronouncing it corbels, and then I started saying corbels, and
I think the more you mumble it, the more correct it is.
Corbels.
That's also the tip of the week.
Yeah. Tab your corbels.
Tab your corbel.
Yeah. So for any material type, at least that's what I've developed so far. There will be more of these that come along, but this is what I have right now on the website. So check it out. Again, thehipsterengineer.com/SEP, and you'll get links to all of these things. Again, these tabs, you don't have to tab them, but if you just want to have it in a binder, it's quick and easy access.
So I think to me that kind of wraps up more of the testing. Goal setting kind of jumps into our next topic. All right, so you graduate school, pass the FE, start trying to find jobs. Is that where you're starting with your career advice as fresh new engineers, or are you more looking into people who have already started, they're in their career and they're looking to move forward?
Honestly, any path that people are at or any position on that path, just because I feel like I've been there. I've been that student looking for their first job. I've been that master's student deciding whether I stay with the company that I'm at. I've been that person who's licensed or wherever you may be in your career and decided to leave the state and move somewhere else. So I don't have all the experiences, I will admit, but I have a few of the different major ones, from student to workforce, from workforce to another state or another company. Yeah, I've been there, done that. Questions you have from any of those positions, I should be able to help you with. So if you want to move to Utah, I'll help you on your career
Okay.
journey.
Will you help me move?
Actually, I have investigated, whether or not it's better for you to move yourself, have other people move you.
We get a lot of questions of engineers in school.
Okay.
But hey, where should I go work? What do I do? I've never had a job before. I don't,
Right.
and you're like, wow, okay, let's start walking through this. And they're asking us for advice, and it's pretty cool. So what kind of advice would you give someone, maybe junior, senior year, whether they're finishing with their bachelor's or their master's, to go find a job?
Right.
What are some tips?
I think the main tip would be to differentiate yourself. Everybody coming out of school, again, you're graduating from a university. Engineering classes are hard. I think it's known that you should be pretty smart already. So that's not a differentiator unless you were summa cum laude, valedictorian or whatever. Maybe, was that you, Max?
No.
Okay. I was the 3.5 student or the 3.49, but we round up, right?
Conservative. You
Conservative, we round up. But, there's things that I did that other people can do that differentiate themselves. I had a unique opportunity to be a cheerleader at BYU. That was my differentiator. That's what I focused on in interviews or when I interacted with people so that they would remember me. Mm-hmm. You can create that. Are you really interested in road biking? Are you interested in 3D printing? Whatever it is, create this differentiator or this differentiating factor so that you stand out, whether that's getting involved with organizations like ASCE. ACE is one where you get involved with high school students and things like that. But there's a lot of these different organizations that you can actually start to meet professionals in your career. And if you do that, you start making contacts, you can at least reach out to them. They become a mentor, perhaps, whether or not they want to be the mentor, that's the thing, but you can kind of force it on them and they become it if you're asking them questions and they start responding.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the main thing. But if you're really looking for a differentiator in the structural engineering world, that doesn't require you to have knowledge of, oh yeah, I know how to do this such and such analysis. Coming out of school, let's be honest, 1%, 10% of what you really think that you know.
Really know nothing.
Maybe it's not even a percent. But if you were to learn Revit, right off the bat, learning Revit, you can get a student license of Revit from Autodesk for free, and you can start learning something that's going to make you productive and make the company that you work for money right off the bat. If you were to get a job as a drafter or even just as an intern with the capability of doing Revit, you are valuable to that company as opposed to just all these new engineering tasks that can make money from your experience right off the bat. Not that all business is cut and dry like that, where companies just look for people that can make them money. It's an investment that you're making in another company as well as that they're making in you. That's where I think Revit is a big differentiator. Did I know Revit coming out of school? No, I had a class, but that's about it. But I don't know. There's somebody that I work with where he's a sophomore in college, hasn't taken an engineering class, but I've been able to keep him busy with drafting or any little things here and there. And he's actually been a huge benefit on some pretty big projects, some pretty big deadlines. So I would not negate the fact that Revit is a powerful tool and it can differentiate yourself and make you valuable.
Totally, yeah. I think I like your first thing about how to separate yourself. I think at the end of the day, we're all people and we all want to be friendly and someone hiring an engineer is going to sit down. Every single person is going to have a very similar resume, right out of school. And so to sit down and be like, hey, I'm super into mountain biking. I like fly fishing or something like that. And you can almost start building rapport with a future boss without even knowing.
Right.
You know, you start finding some of you guys have similar, and people want to work with people that are similar to them, and they want to spend their time with them. So I think it's a pretty good thing
Right.
to start doing is how are you different than other people?
Right.
Because we all are.
Yeah.
I want to pitch for as far as joining an organization. When I was in undergrad, I started going to the SEAC organization, Structural Engineering Association of Colorado. There's a student group, but then there's also the professional group. When I was interning, I was going to the professional group, and you're welcome to go. You're the only student there, most likely. And from a very early start, I was able to get to know people from all different offices and like kind of get a foot in the door before even graduating, which was huge. So if anyone has the opportunity to go to any of the professional groups, I would do it.
So even stepping kind of further back from looking for your first job, we've debated this a couple of times. We've discussed it: internship or working for a construction company before you go into the world of engineering.
Whew, that's a good one. Honestly, that's a really good one. The experience that you'll get in an internship is valuable. I will not say that that's not true. That's the path that I went. I got that intern experience, but I guess I also had a little bit of construction experience. My grandfather was a architect / contractor. He did luxury homes up in Seattle. And so I worked for him. I understood a little bit of the industry and how things went together. But the experience that you can have working a couple summers construction, I think that's more valuable than an internship in a civil engineering firm. If it's an internship in a structural firm, I would say take that over the construction job any day.
Yeah, we found so many people are like, "Hey, can't find an internship," and we're like, "You should look at construction."
Yeah,
you should
if
take
if you can't find the internship,
Yeah.
go for construction. Like even if it's, I don't even know, like there's different volunteer organizations like Habitat for Humanity. Like I know that might not necessarily be like a steady job or you're not getting paid for it, but the experience of building, homes or things like that, that's going to help you understand how wood detailing works.
Totally.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's super valuable. The best engineers that I've met or worked with have had either experience in construction, experience in architecture. The better you are at understanding the different trades that go into engineering, that you're part of the construction or the design team, better you are, because you understand their mindset and you can help think through some problems, figure out good solutions.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if you don't land structural, architectural, something with drafting,
Right.
But lower down the pole would be like a civil kind of thing. If what you want is structural.
If what you want is structural, yeah, because you also don't want to get stuck in that path if that's not what you want.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's right to mislead people and say, yeah, I'll take this job. I want to design culverts. Again, nothing against culverts, but just for example, maybe you're not about transportation or city planning.
Yeah.
That's where a lot of the engineering jobs are. But if you want to be a structural engineer, if that firm has a branch of structural engineering, that's a perfect segue.
Yeah.
To go from doing just regular civil and then being like, hey, can I dabble in the structural side of things? Or at least you get the first, hopefully you're good, you're staying on top of things, and they're like, we want Josh to stay with our firm. And so of course we'll give him a job in the structural department. That's an opportunity. And if they don't want you in the structural department, then you don't want to be working for that company.
I want to ask 2 questions, actually a bunch, but let's go with this one. Let's say you have a job offer or you're interviewing and it's your first job, first structural, what are the indicators that it's a good firm, a firm that you ultimately will want to work for? I think it's really hard to know before you know structural engineering and you know the industry. What are your tells that, this is a good place, they do it right, whatever it takes?
So with that, because again, you don't necessarily have connections or, there's not these red flags that say, hey, we are not a good firm to work for. But I've done this before. I've actually reached out to people that work at that firm. I found them on LinkedIn and I say, hey, how do you like working for this firm? They might not be a first whatever rank connection. They might be a second or third tier or whatever it is. But at least you're trying to investigate that. There are companies like, I believe, Glassdoor, Salary.com. Actually, people review and provide some of that feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's worthwhile to at least ask those questions. Or if you're there for an interview, it wouldn't be too far off if you were like, ask the receptionist, like, hey, what's it like working here? Like, they might not know the engineering part of things, but
They know the culture.
it's easy to ask the receptionist because they're right there. But if you want to ask another engineer as you're like going through, like if you're getting a tour of the company, you can ask them. They might not say, be honest with you if you're in front of their boss.
Yeah, but you can
But
gauge
you can-
their
yeah, you can-
response. If it's not, this is great. Like if you get a
Right.
medium response in front of a boss, it's
Right.
probably a negative.
Yeah, or if
Yeah.
you're walking through the office and it's just like, you just get like this feel of what the atmosphere is like. And so that can help you determine that.
Let's say you're lucky enough, you've got 2 job offers, right? Coming out of school. What are the things that help you weigh these offers besides the obvious numerical? Like you could see pay versus pay. Maybe it is commute time versus commute time, but there's a lot more to it.
I think ultimately it comes back to what I was saying previously. What one's going to make you happier?
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, a difference of a couple $1,000s, that's not going to make or break a deal for me if I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd rather work for people that I think are fun, understanding, knowledgeable. Overall, I want that experience to be great because I'm going to be there for a lot more time than I actually see my family, and I'm actually doing the stuff that I enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
So I want that to be a good experience there. But ultimately, go where you're happy. I don't think a dollar amount is going to change anything. And if anything, what I did actually is when I moved from California to Utah, and I can fully disclose this. This is okay. I told the person that was hiring me, I said, okay, that offer is a little bit low in my opinion. I realize I'm investing in you. You're investing in me. I think it's only fair. I'll take this lower number, but let's chat in 3 months. Let's reevaluate things. And before I even had the opportunity to come back to them, I got a pay increase. And they told me, yeah, you're right. You've been proving that you are worth more in real life than was shown on paper. Even then, like, even if you don't have the credentials on paper, like, especially coming out of school, it's a little bit harder to negotiate your salary because honestly, less than 1%. That's why you need to differentiate yourself and say, I know Revit, I can make you money. But if it's further along in your career, to say, hey, let's reevaluate.
I feel like it's a great idea to leave the door open, like you said. Like I accept this. It's less than I thought, and that way you open it up to have that conversation later. So let's say I got one more for you.
Okay, hypothetically, of course.
Let's say we're
Yeah.
later in our career now. Like we landed our first job. How do you stay on top of structural engineering as a changing field? It keeps going. There's so much to learn. You'll never get it all.
Right.
But how do you stay on top of it during your career?
Number one, again, shameless plug, is listening to the Structural Engineering Podcast. You guys have had some good people on there.
Oh, yeah.
You just learn the different aspects that you can't get in written text.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a more personal level. Number two would be reading literature.
Mm-hmm.
Structures magazine is a good one, especially if you're a structural engineer, but there's other magazines out there. And if you don't want a physical magazine, just go to their website.
Right.
And you can see all of the articles written by professionals just like you. And then the other things would be, other than getting wrapped into organizations, I'm assuming that you're already in these organizations like ASCE or NCSEA. They have webinars, they have seminars, things like that. And then as far as, the Structural Engineering Podcast is giving you your technical side of things. The Hipster Engineer and everything that I'm doing, I feel like comes in on the non-technical, like the softer skills, if you will. And so I think that can help you as you advance in your career. It's not necessarily all about the technical aspect. The technical aspect is important. Don't get me wrong. You have to know what you're doing. Otherwise, people's lives are in danger and lawsuits will happen.
Yeah.
So that you can check out as well.
Okay, I got one more for you. And I think this is, I know, but I'm gonna probably make things a little shorter, and get out all the middle stuff, and I think we can get it down to like 40 minutes or something. Anyway, the last one. Okay, as you're progressing in your career, I think a lot of people think moving up to sort of management is the natural progression, but on the other side, you can just be very technical, like the specialist thing. When do you think people are ready to start taking on project management responsibilities? And if you don't think project management is the role for you, is there still, room for growth in a company, in your opinion?
I think any company, there's always going to be room for growth. Whether you go down like the specialist side of things, or even if you're not a specialist, maybe you're just like really good and quick at what you do, that has value. Specialist has value, as well as people that can manage projects, people that can manage people. Because I think there's two different aspects there. There's people that are really good with managing people. There's some people that are not good at, managing people, but they're good at other aspects of project management. I think there's a career path for each of those. And I think it really depends on what kind of person you are. Everybody might have the aspirations to own their own company someday, become the CEO or president of a company, become a principal. That might be your goals and aspirations in the get-go. And then you realize how much stress and added things are on the plate of that project manager, of that principal, of that CEO. And so as you're going through your career, I don't think it's necessarily boxes that you have from going from project engineer to project manager. I think you're a project engineer and you start managing a project. You don't have the title of project manager, but you're an engineer that's managing the project. You're the go-to person, perhaps, as you get that experience. And so you're kind of seeing, do I like this project management aspect of things? Maybe you don't. And I've known people that they don't like that, or they don't like interacting with people. Yeah. That's totally fine, to each their own. And there's just different career paths for people like that. And so not putting yourself in a box is going to help you find out which path you're going on. But I don't think you can experience that until you actually are on that path and getting a taste of it. Mm-hmm. Much like it, or with the civil engineering program, and then I went structural. But there's some people that just go into civil engineering and they don't know what path. It's the same thing. How do you learn? You take a class from each of those and you're like, okay, I do not want to design culverts. or
I feel bad for culverts.
No, again, that's just the first thing that popped in my mind. Honestly,
what did a culvert ever do to you?
I've had some good friends that have designed culverts. But no, in all honesty, when I was in school, I took environmental engineering, and I was like, I for sure want to do structural engineering.
Gosh,
it was just such a hard class, and it involved chemistry and things like that. And I was like, no, I'm numbers. I am not these symbols and things like that. And then come to find out, there's all these symbols and things like that in the codes and. I'm too deep now to go out. No, I wouldn't change it for the world, but nothing but love for people that design culverts and that are environmental engineers. Like I said, I got lots of friends that design culverts, and a good buddy of mine is an environmental engineer. So
nice. So self-awareness.
Yeah,
I think that's what we got.
Self-awareness.
Make sure you realize what you're doing, and once you try something and you don't like it, adjust.
Yeah. You want to take us home? Take us out?
We're flying back.
No.
Well, the Hipster Engineer, we appreciate you on the show this week.
Thank you for having me.
You're going to bring so much value to our listeners. I think everyone could reach out to you as they like with questions and go to your website.
Yeah. Go to my website, or you can reach out to me via email. My email is josh@thehipsterengineer.com. Pretty straightforward.
We'll link it.
Yeah, link
Josh
it.
is a tough one to spell.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything will be down in the show notes. As always, you can reach out to Max and I, email, Instagram, Facebook, anything in any way you want to reach us. We probably have a mailing address if you want to send a letter. So we'll catch you guys later.